Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Tom from Came to Believe Recovery, and welcome to Recovery Live, our weekly Friday live stream where we discuss all things addiction. Today, I'm coming to you guys live from the West Coast to California. I'm actually in Oroville right now, which is north of Sacramento and northeast even of San Francisco. And I'm here, as I guys was telling you guys last week, is we have retreat this weekend in Nevada City, which is about an hour and a half from here. And we're just so excited. People are signing up. We just had another person sign up just a few minutes ago. We've been collecting more and more as the week has gone on. And we're so excited to see lives changed this weekend. It's just so awesome. Taryn has joined us quickly already. Jamie West from Wisconsin. We got Wisconsin. We have somebody California with us this morning. I just can't wait for what's going to happen this weekend. Nevada City Camp Del Oro is one of the nicest facilities we have. Someone from the UK will come on and tell us there's one over there that's nicer, but it's beautiful in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And just a really serene place to have your life change. Today, we're going to be talking about meeting people where they're at. It's a lot about what we're doing today. We're meeting people where they're at, when they're ready to get recovered, when they're ready to hear a message. But what about all those that are not ready yet? We're going to hear about that, and we'll have special guests on today. I want to let you guys know, too, that in a couple of weeks now, we will have the Schoolies Mountain Retreat, all of you guys on the East Coast in New Jersey. That's for you, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. People will be there. And remember, we're going to all meet Lisa. You get to meet Lisa if you come to the Schoolies Mountain Retreat. So go on cametobelieve.org and you can sign up for that retreat. And a few weeks after that, we'll be doing the retreat at the shelter in South Bronx, New York, which is not open to the public at the moment. But we certainly want to tell you guys all about it, as it's a big deal as we move into a place where there's some really hurting people, and we're being given the opportunity to present the program to those that are in a tough spot in a rescue mission shelter in the South Bronx in New York City. And then after that, there's a retreat in the UK at North Pennines. So it will be awesome. Sue Foreman says, how's the Spanish book coming along? Well, it's done, Sue. We sent it to you, so you know it. We are not going to print them yet. We did get our legacy guide translated into Spanish, everybody. So we do have a version of that right now electronically. And we'll probably print a few out manually for the Spanish until we decide exactly what we're going to do as far as actually producing it with the cover on it, legacy guide and everything. But without further ado today, I want to bring on my first guest, and it's our senior leader who's going to be helping greatly down in Nevada City and is about an hour and a half away from me, and I'll be meeting up with her in a few hours. I want to bring on Alicea from Meadow Vista.
Hello.
Alicea, I just looked at the smoke down there from the fire, and it's not so bad.
Okay.
That's what it said on my little weather app. There's a big fire, everybody, in California. I don't know if you guys are watching the news. There's a big fire east of where the retreat's going to be. And if the wind blows the wrong way, it's very smoky, right?
Yes. I think there's 2 fires now, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, it's clear. And then, the wind changes and then it's not so clear. But my friend a couple days ago said Nevada City was clear. But again, if the wind changes, we might be really smoky. We can stay inside.
You excited for the weekend?
I am. I went over my presentations and added some more stuff to it and packing my stuff. I'm ready.
We, with this effort that we have, and it's really an effort around recovery in general, is the follow-up part, the ongoing part of the program. And I think, Alicea, sometimes we get pinned down with the idea that we say it's 1 through 12 on the weekend and then you're done and you just go away. And we're not saying that, right? We're saying we're going to show you the process that then you're going to live 10, 11, and 12. And so we keep adding more and more and more and talking more and more to people because we hear them afterwards and all along.
Yeah.
How they're going to overcome habits and routines and walk into this new life. So this retreat, we're going to change the way we do things a little bit. Is Saturday night, instead of having a keynote speaker, we're actually going to do step 10 Saturday night, maybe a little expanded, but we're going to do step 10, which will allow us on Sunday to do a little bit more of talking about living in the go. It's basically adding more time to talk about living in the go and how we live this life that we've taught you to live over the weekend. So I'm excited about this change. We're going to see how it goes.
Yes. And we tried it in Indiana and Missouri, and we just keep tweaking it and adjusting it and honing in on it. So I think, and we'll keep doing that too. If we get feedback that shows us that they want more of something, then completely we will do that. But at the same time, yeah, we need to meet them where they are and give them tools and strategies and just encourage them to stay in 10, 11, and 12. But they got to do it. That's the thing where it's like, I can't go home with you and make you do this stuff. So we just need to encourage them in a way to hopefully give them a few tools that they can go home with. And then they can add more as they go.
And that's what we do. And guys, for any of you that are joining and listening and have no idea what Alicea and I are talking about, what Came to Believe Recovery does is we don't have a new program. It's not Tom and Alicia's program. What we're doing is presenting the program of the founders as it was practiced in the Cleveland, Akron area by Clarence Snyder, Dr. Bob, and that gang early in the 30s and 40s, where they had a 93% success rate and where they took people through the steps quickly. We're going to do it over a weekend. There's a lot of evidence Dr. Bob took people through in an afternoon. And what he did, again, was set them up for a life. Step 9 says, what are we really doing? Is we're fitting ourselves to be of maximum service to God and those around us. And then step 10 says, what we really are, we're going to be growing in our understanding and effectiveness, right, as we commence this way of living. So lots of evidence that what we're doing is teaching a way of living. And that's what we do over the weekends. We give you that jump start. And then, and like Alicea said, we're finding that we want to make sure we give a lot of tools for people who leave, who may have only heard this message one time. And it's like, whoa, what do I do now? And then we send them home, right? And we can't go with them, right, Alicea? And so we don't know what they're doing. And so we want to be able to do the best we can to give them all the support we can right afterwards. So that's what we do on the weekend. And that's what we're going to do this weekend. Is we're going to run a bunch of people through the program just the way the founders did it, as close as we know, as was passed down by us from Clarence Snyder to Steve Foreman to BJ Rapp and Sue Foreman, all the way down to us, little us now. Sue Foreman is with us on chat. Hi, Sue. He said hi already. Anna Louise Branson. Anna, you're with us. Wesley Branson. Let's see who else is with Doc Roth. Anybody out there in Las Vegas? You could be joining us, Doc. Come on, one of these days. It's not that far, Las Vegas, right? Danny Richards. Where are you from, Danny? Now you're going to say you've been on before, and I should know. Nicole from Rice Lake. Hi, Nicole. She's become a regular now. She's here with us all the time. Hashtag recovered. There we go. Hey, yes, remember, guys, hashtag recovered for the shirt. So Casarah will be doing the shirt giveaway when time comes. Speaking of Casarah, who you will not meet at Schooley's Mountain, anybody that's coming, she'll show up one of these retreats coming up.
Her schedule is very full right now. She would probably want to come, but she's in school and working and stuff, planning a wedding.
She's living in the go.
She is.
Herself and moving forward in all areas of her life, right? That's our girl. So without further ado, this week, I know some of you that have heard some of our broadcasts in the past, and we've talked about things like harm reduction and meeting people where they're at before they even want to have any recovery. And Casarah has a lot of experience with that in her jobs prior to working for us, in working with the homeless and working with people on the street and working with people who really aren't even ready to hear, and has lots of great advice and lots of great experience for us that we really should hear this too, and we should listen to how to deal with somebody who isn't ready, and how not to judge, and this and that and the other thing. So without further ado, let's bring on Casarah and let's talk a little bit about meeting people where they're at.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for the great intro.
So what's the wedding update?
So
Yes, you didn't know
going.
that.
Usually says going.
Yep, literally, it's going. We have a venue. We have no money. So eventually we'll get there, but it's good. I know what I want to do. It just has to be edited eventually.
That's awesome. So put her on the spot with wedding plan.
I mean, that's some good answer every time. So
every meeting we have now, we start off, okay, wedding plans. What are they?
She's like, ugh.
So guys, we want to talk about this. So Casarah, Alicea and I meet, most of the people that we meet are coming like they come for a retreat today. Like this girl that just called us this morning, who doesn't even have a day sober, has decided they want to try. Okay, so they're coming with this desire to hear a message of being recovered. So we got the green light now to go and tell them what we do and see if what they want, what we have. And then we have to meet them where they're at, but that's a different meeting where they're at, because they're at this place of beginning recovery. But it's all these people that, and they're everywhere here in California, homeless and others, not just the homeless, but others that are hurting, that are not ready for whatever reason. But they're not worthless. Alicea and I don't have so much experience in dealing. We don't really deal with them so much, not out of anything particular. We just don't. But what's your experience with that population?
So when I was working in New Jersey, we used to do a lot of outreach. So we'd go into higher risk areas, and sometimes it would just be literally walking the streets and hitting like hot street corners that we knew a lot of people were there and that it was active, and we knew many people were in active use, and it would just start with a conversation. So you're just talking to them. And the biggest thing that I learned from watching like my coworkers was I wasn't going in there with like a mission or, something I wanted them to do or something I wanted from them. I was going there literally just to have a conversation, and just starting with, hey, how are you doing? And like seeing how it went from there. And I think that was like the most important lesson, was I wasn't going there to sell recovery or to tell them what I think that they need to do, or that I think, their life could be better, because I don't know their life. I don't know what brought them to this specific point. So I think that's step one when you're thinking about meeting someone where they're at, is you need to drop like all of your own like biases and beliefs about what someone's life should look like, or what you think is a good life and what you think could help them, because you don't know until you ask them. And sometimes I think we forget that. Like, you want to go in and be like, look at all these resources I have and all this, like, when they might not want that, and you don't know that until you ask. So that was interesting to learn. But then it was cool, because when I'm talking to people that have never met me before. I don't look like them. So they're kind of like, the beginning of the conversation was, who are you? What do you want? And I'm just like, hi, like, I have Narcan. And then by the end of the conversation, I had people tell me if I ever needed help, like, call them, let them know, like, they'll be there for me. And you're thinking, like, here they are, living their life, doing whatever they need to do, and they're like worried about helping me. And if I went in there with judgment and with bias and with an agenda, that's not how it would have ended. It would have ended with hello, and they would have said, no, like, get out of my face. You don't know me. You don't anything. But it's more about getting to know the person before thinking about anything else. And I think that was really interesting because they all had interesting stories, some with a lot of, different, trauma and things like that. And some it was just a choice that they made.
So how at this beginning point, I would think you would have to overcome some of this idea that Alicia and I even run into, and I run into with people, is that addiction is a lifestyle choice at some time in your life, or you're a lazy person, or you're no good, or you're a criminal. And did you find that you, to do this work, would have to really work on putting those judgments, like you said, aside, because there's a whole stigma to it? And in some cases, it is true. I mean, I think in some cases they are criminals and they have made some bad choices and it may be dangerous. I don't know. Well, how did you deal with that from the beginning?
So the whole reason, going way back, the whole reason I decided, I wanted to work in a recovery center is I had chosen to do a research project in undergrad about substance use and how people are treated within prisons and people's perceptions of people using substances. So when you're doing that kind of research and reading more and more, you're confronted with your own biases. And I was just like everyone else. I thought when I saw someone on the street or using, I'm like, oh, why don't they just stop? Why don't they just do this? It can't be that hard, because I didn't know. I was looking at it from my perspective only, from my life, and only using what I've experienced to judge someone else when I don't even know their experiences. So then when I started working in New Jersey at the recovery center, I was scared. I was genuinely scared because I felt like, who's going to want to listen to me? What do I have to say that's going to help someone? And what if I say something that's harmful and that actually hurts them more? So I was scared. I was like, oh, did I make the right choice? Should I even be here? But I was lucky enough that I had people that I was working with and that are still in my life that helped me through that, helped me think about it. Okay, why do you feel that way? What were your beliefs in the past? And then they're in recovery. So they told me, this is my story and this is what I went through. And it was very open discussions about it. And that helped me realize, one, that everyone's story experience is different and that I can't judge based on what I have experienced and believe. And that it's so important just to be open to people and accepting no matter the circumstance, and not holding on to an expectation or an outcome, and being okay with what they choose, because it's, it's their life, it's their right to decide. So that really was the biggest thing that I think helped, was the people that I was around and the people that I met in the streets that were helping me, because they have more knowledge than I did. So why not ask them? What do you think? How do you help? How would you help you? And things like that. And that helped because I went in not knowing anything. And now I listened and I accepted people, and then they taught me more than anything else. Listening.
We know that when we meet an addict that decides they want to get better, we have to meet them with that, and we do have to do that listening, right? And we can't decide that for them to be in where we are. I would have trouble overcoming that desire to want to say, it doesn't have to be this way, you could get better. Not necessarily even going into what we do, but just the whole general idea of, because I think we all think they just don't want to be that way. They're desperately deciding, and we don't know that, right? Like you're saying, you talk to them. We don't know what they're not looking to get better at, and that may dumbfound us. Mm-hmm. But we can't judge. I love the person first thing. Remember, Jesse brought that up, Casarah?
Yeah.
They're not an addict. They're a person in addiction. Mm-hmm. And that really helped me. I love the person first. Thanks, Taryn, for putting that in the chat, because that made me think about it. I think a person first thing is would help me. And I think that's what you're talking about, is you're going in and looking at people and dealing with them as a person, not as whatever they're doing.
Yeah, that's why, if you notice, I never use the word, like I never really say addiction. I never really say addict. Like you don't hear me say it. It's because I say substance use or like someone who's in active use or substance use disorder. Just so it's like, okay, I'm not equating it with the person to me, like just because of that's how I was educated at my other work was like, when you say addict, I'm like, that's who you are. Like
Right.
an addict. When I say someone who uses substances, you're like, oh, like you're a daughter, you're a mother, you're a person, but you also happen to be using substances. Okay, now I understand. Like that's how it like works in my mind. So like that's usually the words that I just choose to use when I'm talking about it or discussing it with someone. Just because to me that sounds person first instead of like labeling someone like this is what you are.
Yeah, no, I love that because that goes right hand in hand with the step 6 and 7 of like that's no longer our identity, and I fall into that saying I am whatever, and we need to learn to recognize that and not label other people either. That's an important point. Yeah, I love that.
And then the key to this is these people. I mean, I don't know. I'm learning more and more, and I learned from Casarah, and I would love to go and do some of this. What they call harm reduction, this stuff in the street where we just go to just help people and talk to them. I haven't done it yet, but I would like. I'm waiting till she comes home, and I'll go with her. But there's something about a non-judgmental. We know this, Alicea, right? Because we get that reaction when they are ready to come, when they know that we're not judging them at that level, and that we're just sharing our experience, strength, and hope, and we're not going to make them do anything, and we're doing. It has an effect on them, and they're more open. I think it would be the same thing, right, Casarah? Over time, someone who has no idea they want to do anything or be anything or change at all for any reason, just showing grace is what we would call that, radical grace, really, what you're doing. And love, right? Pure love, no judgment, nothing, that eventually some do reach out. Is that true?
Yeah. Just by being there. Because then they feel safe. They know, like, this is going to be okay. Because even if they falter at any point, they know you're not going to judge them and be like, well, this is what happens. This is what you get. Things like that. They know, like, they can trust you and that you're going to, like, be a part of that and be for them and not just attached to the outcome that you want to happen. Because that's not what happens in many cases. And when you're attached to the outcome because you want it to happen, you're no longer serving to help them, you're helping yourself. So you can say, oh, look what I did for this person. And like, that's all the wrong reasons to do something.
Guys, it's a tough thing to overcome this whole subject of judgment of people. I think I see so many people, guys, who look at that and they immediately judge them as, lazy and whatever. It's so hard. I have so much respect for you, Casarah, and others that do what you have done and do and are encouraging us to be more involved with. And Casarah is behind the scenes, guys. She's tasked with having us be more involved with things like this in work, right? She's still just writing her own new job description, right?
Business plan.
What?
Her business plan is.
Well, the happiest employee is one who wrote their own job description, right? And then they're allowed to do that. I mean, that sounds good to me. And I remember, there's things that can bias someone, like Tim Doyle, who is a pastor, quote unquote. And I think him and I were talking when I was down there. When he goes out to reach into the streets, if he identifies himself as Pastor Tim, he's judged right away. Mm-hmm. It's not just because we get that too, Casarah. Some is, Alicea and Tom are, immediately we're judged because we're, I don't know, seem to have it all together or are doing some things. And we got to be careful that people stop listening to us because we don't understand. And so it kind of goes both ways, is to be not judged as well as not judging.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think, did anybody ever give that to you? Casarah, like, who is this white girl coming down here to tell us,
That was a quote that
privileged
someone said
white
to
girl,
me.
right?
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Privileged white girl.
that's exactly what that was a quote out of someone's mouth. They turned, they saw me, and that's exactly what they said. And I was like, ugh. I'm like, you're right. So hi. But then after, at the end, they were like, oh, okay. And like, we talked the whole time. So it's like, if you're open, then they're going to be open. Like, I could have closed down and be like, how dare you? I'm here to help you. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, but like, I was just like, yeah, that's an appropriate, yeah, that's an appropriate comment. This is, yeah, basically. So, but once we started talking, like, they were like, oh, like, that's not who you are. And just because we might have looked different and had different experiences, like, we were still able to communicate with each other and come to an understanding. And but that was my fear, and still is that people, although I have never struggled with a substance use or alcohol, that people will look at me and say, like, why would I want to listen to you? Then you don't understand. And that was the biggest thing that some of my friends in recovery helped me with, was like, they always would be like, well, first of all, you're one of us because you're crazy. And they also helped me to realize, like, I do have a voice and that it is worth hearing. So, because I would never really talk, I wouldn't say much in like our like supervision and certain meetings when we would talk about things going on. And they would be texting me like, you better say something. I know you want to say something. So they like pushed me to, I'm like, all right. So I think that even though I didn't specifically experience substance use and things like that, that I can still relate to some of the underlying things that are underneath it, like, the feelings that you go through before you started using, and what you were feeling, what you're thinking, what you feel right now. And I never ever claim to, I know what you're going through. I know what you feel. I would never do that,
Right.
because I don't, and I would never say that. And I always would disclose, like, I've never struggled with substance use, but I've struggled with this. And then see, we just talk about common ground, or I just listen. I don't understand what you're going through, but please tell me, explain to me, what are you feeling? What was that like? Like, how do you want to move forward? How do you want to talk about this? Because sometimes that's all people want. They want to talk about their story. They want to tell you, how their day was and what's going on right now. And sometimes none of that has to do with a substance that they're using. It just has to do with their life. So sometimes it's just, I don't talk, I just listen, and that's fine with me.
When you were saying that you can't say to them, like, I know how you're feeling, Alicia and I could say that. Like, we could say, we get where you're at. But
Right.
that, I don't know that how much effect it would have for somebody like you who has, so you got no skin in the game, even, because as far as recovery, right? We have some skin in that game. So you show up to this person and they don't know why you're coming to just help them and talk to them. How awesome could that be? They are trying to figure out what you're doing. And you're like, I'm just here to talk to you. I just want to help you. Do you need something to eat? I just want to talk to you. How are you? How that would build trust, as Matt Enlund said, building trust. You might have a key that Alicia and I don't have, because as soon as we say something like, we know where you're at, it could be, oh, they're going to talk me into doing something. They're going to want me. I don't know. I'm just thinking that when we talk about meeting them where they're at, to really get unbiased, you got to present this person that truly has nothing in the back of their toolbox, that they're, no agenda.
Mm.
Right.
I don't know. Could you do it, Alicia?
I learned something every time Casarah talks about this stuff. It's just like, wow, it's just another world and stuff that I don't really think about, But then again, on the flip side, what you just said, Tom, like, we're at retreats where people signed up to be, and I think it helps us to be vulnerable and recovered and speaking, because then they relate to us. Like, if Casarah was at a retreat speaking about step 4 and 5, they might be like, really? No, it's totally different, but in the same realm. And then Casarah, what you were saying before, I was feeling like judgment from them, because I've spoken at retreats, and I'm recovered from alcohol and eating disorders and over exercise, and there was people there that didn't, they see me and they judge me because they have told me. And then once I admit that I have struggled with food and over exercise and all that stuff for 33 years, so many people have come up and apologized and made amends to me because they were judging me, thinking, well, look at her, she thinks she's all this. When I struggle the exact same struggles as they do, even though we look different, we have the same addiction.
Mm-hmm.
That happens at the retreats. So it's like parallel. But yeah, like Tom said too, or like you said, I would be afraid that I would say the wrong thing and go in my head, like, I want to fix you. I want to take you home. I want to help you. But they got to want it. And, or what, I don't even know, but what they would need from me. Just listening, I guess. Listen.
If we're really going to meet, and when I've said this before, if we're going to really meet the least, the last, and the lost, if we're really going to just be loving, we have to do this stuff. We have to go to those people one step further. Last night I'm in an AA meeting. Well, those people all came to the AA meeting, right? There's some level of need. So it's another one of those, I'm not really out helping. I'm waiting for them to come in. But what about all of those that aren't, that don't even, what's their need? And so an effort is going to be made. I think somehow we're talking about it behind the scenes. What are we going to do? We should be out meeting at least the last and the lost. And at least when the time comes, not just our option, there's a lot of options potentially for someone to get whatever they need. Maybe it's medical help, or who knows what it is, but not everybody. And I think this was a question I thought before, Casarah. While everyone thinks that everyone on the street or in homelessness is an addict, they're not all addicts. Is that a true statement?
Yeah. We met a lot of people that weren't using, they just needed food, and like we would give like toiletries and stuff. They weren't using, they just had hard times. They just lost their apartment or house, and now they find themselves homeless, and that's it. They're struggling, they're stuck at the moment. But not everyone is in active use. Sometimes they've stopped using, but they're still homeless, because just because you stop using it don't fix immediately. Like if you're homeless and really have nothing, and you like received free services, and then now they're like, okay, bye. They could have been like, yeah, I'm recovered, but I still don't have a home or anything else.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it's a mix.
We had somebody come on last night who said, that was at the meeting last night, who said when they got recovered and things actually got worse in their life. Things got worse. There's a great comment from Tim Doyle. If you put that up, Casarah, I can't put it up. And he says, as he's learned, and we've been working really closely with Tim, as he's been really an advocate for Came to Believe in what they're doing. And he's got such a heart for the addicted and the hurting in the St. Joseph area in Minnesota. See that he learned to relate to those in recovery. It's surprising that some don't want what we have, right? But they did respond to love and accepting folks without a judgment or agenda. And that's where we go. Great point, Tim. Thanks for bringing that up. That's what you're saying, right, Casarah? Is that to touch someone without a judgment or agenda is something we should be able to do.
And it's like hard too sometimes. It's just so different. Like the way, I've said this before when we were talking about, the way I would speak right now to you guys is not the way when I was like in Patterson talking to people. It's not the same language I'd be speaking, because that's not that's how they speak. So like that's how I have to speak. So it's very different, and it's just like makes you become more like aware of yourself, and like how you say things, and what you believe might not be what they believe, and things like that. And it's hard, like in those situations, many times like, I don't think I had ever talked about spirituality or any type of religion, God, or anything, because at that point, like, that's not even a concept in their mind. To talk about, they would be like, what are you even talking about? I don't have time for that. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, please, I have real problems like that I need to discuss. I don't have time for that, and I need either action, or they just want to talk. But it's also, I think, one of the most interesting things that I learned is that, and I was kind of like, what? But it makes sense to me, is that sometimes people using is actually saving them. Like, it's saved their life, because if they weren't using, they might have committed suicide. Or, if you're homeless and it's negative degrees out and you don't want to feel that cold and you use, you're not going to feel that cold. Like, that was one of the things that one of my coworkers always talked about, was like, imagine they didn't have that. Like, obviously, in maybe health wise and things like that, it's not the best solution, but sometimes, like, that's what people needed to save their life. And then they end up finding recovery, and it's like different. Like, some of my closest friends are in recovery, and that's kind of what they experienced. Like, they had a lot of trauma and different things happen, and although that's what they turned to, that's what kept them going. That's literally why they're alive today, to become recovery. And obviously it was a rough journey for them, but, like, they always mention that, like, how can you, just because maybe I had access to a support system and I could talk to my parents, and people are lucky enough to, maybe they had strong family ties or really good friends, so that they felt, okay, I can talk to someone. This is not, I'm not going this route, and they didn't kind of like get to that point and choose, to pick up a substance. But some people don't have that, so to them that was their, this is what's going to keep me alive kind of thing. So I thought that was really interesting because that's hard to wrap your head around. You're kind of like, wait,
Yeah.
but because now you're looking at their life at this point in time, but it's all, you don't know their story, you don't know what they went through, you don't know what they're going through at this specific moment. So I think, like, sometimes, because I never had, like, skin in the game like you guys, and, like, had used substances, sometimes, like, that's why it's easier for me to accept that, because I'm like, oh, you're telling me, okay, that's all I got to say is okay. And I accept that as a response, and I accept that it probably is true for many people. But it is, like, something to wrap your head around.
You realizing that is interesting as not being an addict, because I was talking about this last night. I said to people, you get sober, and if you don't have something, a solution, if you don't have anything, what you do is get faced with all of your stuff. Things don't look good Tuesday morning when you got sober Sunday, because all of a sudden there's no money, there's no food, there's no place, there's no this, there's no that. And you're right, this is what could push you to suicide, because the fog clears. Mm-hmm. And without some sort of an answer, it's actually safer to be back in what you're doing. You go right back into it. Now, I know people will kill us, right, Casarah, for saying this, but in some cases it is keeping them alive. I don't either. I'm the same way. I don't care either.
The truth.
Until you're ready I needed a solution right away. That's what I talked to them last night. And when I was ready, I walked in. I needed someone to tell me I needed to see progress. The next day I needed something, or I'd have been back in it, because I couldn't face it. I didn't want to face it. And it would have been better. And I did get that in my case. When I was open enough, and I was at the right place, and was talked to the right way, and said, whoa, I'll get this. But I totally get that, what you're saying, that in some cases. And so what do we do with those people? Like you're saying, do we wait until they're ready and just make sure they stay alive? Yes. Or do we, create regulation or something, and it actually kills people that aren't ready? I mean, we know that statistics are showing today that sometimes if you were to just pull people off, that, I'm still waiting to go to the what do they call it? The
Safe usage site.
safe usage sites, which I'm going to go to, guys, everybody that's listening, because there's a lot of statistics coming out of that saying, without the safe usage sites, there's actually more overdoses and deaths. And so of those that are going to use anyway. I know it's a controversy, guys. Some of you out there are saying, no matter what, you're enabling and this. Well, get in the world with us. That's all I say to you. Come in with us. Come spend some time with Casarah and us. Come spend some time within this category of life and learn a little bit about it and get deep into it before you make that judgment. Because I certainly have turned, while I wasn't as far off of it, I'm not one who would say those things ought to not happen, or needle exchanges and stuff. I don't think we're not going to do it, came to believe, but I wouldn't say that maybe it shouldn't be done. Well, I might not have said that 5 years ago. Taryn Price, truth is truth. Terry Bruns, Terry's going to be at Del Oro with us today. We do have the UK with us today. Dee Cuniff is with us. And good point, Casarah. All points Casarah makes are good. Melissa's with us, and Melissa is in Spain. If you were friends with Melissa on Facebook, you'd be seeing her laying by the pool in Spain.
And on the boat. She went parasailing.
Parasailing.
Yeah,
Melissa's living in the go, I mean, her life has changed. And since she got sober not that long ago, I've watched her change and grow in every category of her life. Oh, we had a great story last night, guys, of a guy who finally got sober and finally got it through Came to Believe, and not more than a year ago. And he's not coming to retreat. And he wasn't at the meeting last night. And I love the reason. He's in truck driving school. He's going to learn to be a truck driver so he can change his life and get a new career.
That's awesome.
And I told that story last night. I said, that's what we got to be. That's an awesome story. He's decided, we don't know what anyone else is, but he decided to go and do that. It was an awesome story. I was so happy to not see him.
It's a good reason.
Right? He's going, I was telling him the story when I got sober, and I'd been going to a lot of meetings at the beginning. And then when I went to school and my work started to pick up and things started to change and I started to move in life. And I wasn't going to so many meetings. Whenever I'd go, they'd be like, "Are you okay?" Okay, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm actually really good." Yeah. Great conversation today. I don't know how many of you guys in our audience really relate to this. I hope you're learning. I hope you get a less judgmental attitudes. I hope you're opening your heart and listening with that no agenda, and are maybe kind of reflecting on where you think when you interact with anybody anywhere about their judgment and stuff. I know I do it. It's human nature. Everyone I talk to, Alicia's just wrong all the time. And so
being in Tom's life, we learn a lot of patience. That's for sure.
And I have to learn tolerance.
Yeah.
But we certainly are going to move forward with all this stuff, guys. We're so happy to have retreat. We're going to keep doing what we do because we know what we do is affects that person who's ready to hear what we have to our message. They come and they get it. And if they thoroughly follow the path and they're of that type, they can recover too, just like the founders have said. So we're off this weekend. Alicia and I, we're closing the book and I'm heading off and she's probably heading off too. We're going to meet in Nevada City, and we're going to deliver this message to those that have wanted to come. Casarah will be probably talking to you too, because Casarah's behind the scenes. The whole reason the whole thing's even going is probably her and Lisa and Val, who's in the other room, and Dale and all, who's been they've painstakingly working to have those that come be able to come. Man, I wonder if we could do live from the street someday, Casarah. What do you think?
Maybe, but there might be an ethical issue.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you can't have people that don't want to be there on there.
Yeah, we'd have to check them all ahead of time, and then it would all be like biased. Yeah, maybe we don't do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. thing.
But
But definitely need to get you out there.
yeah. All right, well, let's do our t-shirt giveaway. Guys, we're going to give you a few minutes to have hashtag recovered. Alicea, it was great having you on with us today. We're getting ready. We're going to go give that message this weekend. We're going to see you in a few hours.
Yep.
And that's what we'll do. Casarah, we'll see you. I don't know.
One day, everyone.
Engagement
One
party
day.
on the 1st of October.
Yeah, that's when you'll see me.
All right. All right. Hashtag recovered, guys. Put it in that. They're knocking them out now. Hashtag recovered, and you'll get a chance at winning a t-shirt that Lisa will send to you. Otherwise, everybody have a great weekend, and let's go do it. Sarah, let's do the t-shirt. Well, look, she can keep all of us in.
Yeah.
I didn't know you can do that.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. I like that. Only 10 people, guys? Come on. We'll give it another minute. More people want it. Doc Roth has about a dozen shirts, but I know he gives them away. He has done that too, guys. He said give it to somebody else. He has. Doc's a good guy. Come on, come on. Just one more minute. When it clicks one more. Recovered. I love the tumblers that we have. They work so well. Still only 10. Well, let's do it, Casarah. Let's see who gets the shirt today. Woo! Mr. Granson.
Yay.
All right, Leslie, put your address in our chat or send it to us in a private message.
Privately in a private Facebook message.
Oh, send it in a private Facebook message.
Yeah,
okay.
So that it's not public for the world to see.
There we go.
We don't want that.
Because you're right. If it was in this one, everyone would see.
Yeah. Oh, Lisa, you're late.
Who's that? Lisa. She didn't get it. Lisa, you can have a shirt if you want. Congratulations.
She already has all them. She could just choose one.
She does. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being on the show. We'll schedule another one. I know we got some great subjects coming up in the month of October and in November, right, Casarah? We'll be talking about all sorts of stuff, recovery. And join us every Friday at, I'm going to start with Pacific because that's where I am, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon on the East Coast, and 5 p.m. in the UK for our weekly version of Recovery Live. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.